I'd like to do some spoken word from a reaction haiku that I delivered to Cassie while I was watching the last episode.
Okay.
Just keep in mind it's all caps lock, and it's not actually a haiku. Mai's realization at the end that she should is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. You dumb bitch. It took you 26 fucking episodes to Thank you very much. きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
Hello everyone and beyond, and welcome to yet another episode of the Annie Chat Box. I am once again your host, Jonathan Joestar. Been a while since I last hosted, but here we go. To get things off the bat, first off, our social links. You can find us at twitter.com/AnnieChatBox. You can email us at anniechatmail@gmail.com. Got a lot of emails that we need to read out at some point, but not today. And to listen to us, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. Or, if you find it within your heart of hearts, to donate to us at all, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/AnnieChatBox.
I also do a gaming podcast. It's called Save Our Progress. SoundCloud.com/Save Our Progress. If you can't get enough anime and gacha gaming, then look no further than the latest episode 102 of Save Our Progress, where we broke down the entire fall anime 2018 season within 30 minutes. I shit you not. Me and Zach sales pitched every show to Paul and Pete. It's pretty entertaining. So go give that a listen.
But I am, of course, not alone. Joining me, it's no point in me pointing out directions like everyone else does, because everyone is just to my west. I am joined by a full cast, a full box. So, of course, there is the one with the beautiful singing voice, Cammy.
Hello, everybody. I'm not drunk enough for this, but I'm here, and if you're here, we're excited to give you a good podcast.
Oh, yeah.
There is, of course, my fellow gentleman of the box, Craig.
Hello. What's up, everyone? How's it going?
And, of course, the ever-lovely producer extraordinaire, Cassie.
Yo, 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 yo. Yiggity yo.
Yiggity yo.
Yiggity yo, yiggity yo, yo, yo. Does anybody actually here know how to yo-yo?
I do.
I tried when I was like 5th grade. I could never get it to work.
I could do it. I used to do around the world while I was walking down the street.
I'm so jealous of y'all. Dang.
I haven't done it in years, to be fair.
I used to do, I think it was Rock the Cradle. I had a yo-yo could spin for a while. And
Y'all just contributed to my 90s aesthetic.
You're welcome.
I think I still have my yo-yos somewhere. Gathering dust somewhere. Anywho, we're not here to talk about yo-yos, although there is a bit of nostalgia in today's episode. But today's episode is a host choice. My host choice, which is why I'm hosting. But we've decided, since host choice tend to run a little longer than usual episodes, we're going to skip the topic at the start and just dive into what the series is, and then a little bit about why the host in question picked the series in question. And so, without further ado, my host choice for this episode was the 2004 hit series My-Hime, produced by Studio Sunrise, known for Cowboy Bebop, Axel World, Gundam, all of it, and Love Live, also all of it.
Ew.
So, the synopsis goes, Toki-Hime and her sickly young brother Takumi have received a scholarship to attend the prestigious Fuka Academy. On the way, the ferry they are traveling on becomes the site of a destructive battle between two girls wielding apparently supernatural powers. This is only the beginning of their troubles, as Mai learns that she herself possesses these powers. The powers of a Hime.
Dun dun dun.
Dun,
dun,
dun, dun, dun.
So yeah, on to why I picked this series for the host choice. After the not so popular reaction of my previous host choice, but still good discussion, I was trying to think of a series that maybe people would like a bit more, but maybe would still bring a good discussion to the table. But I was humming and hawing for a while, and then it was while I was watching Utena that I just, the entire time I was watching Utena, I had this nagging feeling that this is reminding me of something. This is reminding me of something in some strange way, and I don't know what. And finally, at the end, I was like, fucking My-HiME! And then I asked, has anyone else here watched My-HiME? And everyone said no, so I was like, the choice is made. And so I decided to subject everyone to the series that is My-HiME.
John, how old were you when you first watched My-HiME?
Good question.
I was 17-ish, around about, using maths, because I did watch it when it aired.
Man, that's nuts to me. That also explains, though, just the nostalgic piece there. Because I think, at least with Nadeshiko initially, and then at this case, you do tend to want to find, like, more nostalgic pieces for us to watch. So I do appreciate the fact that that was something that led us to My-HiME. And, like, honestly, otherwise, I don't think I ever would have watched this show. So, you know, that's an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, although one other thing I want to say is that I didn't really rewatch My-HiME much. I might have rewatched it once, and that was like shortly after the first time I saw it, but it just kind of completely slipped out of my mind. But I did really enjoy this series. It was... I mentioned off-pod to Cami at one point that one of the first avatars I used everywhere was a picture of Mai. But yeah, anywho, I suppose we should actually get into talking about the series itself.
Well, what was it that you liked about the story, since we tend to tackle story first? What was it that you liked back then, and how is that different from how you feel now, or is it about the same?
Good question.
I am a sucker for battle anime, especially involving badass girls with superpowers. So, like, it's one of the reasons why I really liked Shakugan no Shana, and one of the reasons why I fell in love with Fate Stay Night, and Buzo Shinki as well, and various other... I can think of so many anime that, like, it's got badass girls with kick-ass powers and whatever. Throw in the mecha-like designs of the childs. That's another thing that appeals to me. There was so many aesthetic things that appealed to me, but then, like, the story did eventually grab me. And, like, I kept on, like, the intrigue of it, or, like, okay, so, like, why do they have these powers? What is the significance of this star? And all these questions that do get brought up, and I was like, okay, but now I want answers, please. You've got my attention. Give me the answers. And, like, theory spinning and all these other things. and then deep diving into the meanings behind the servants, not servants, the childs, the summons, and just it grabbed me, and I just really loved the story and this world, and like all the other implications are like, what if this was real?
It sounds like you really got into the lore of it, and I'm just curious, were you ever active on any like internet communities or forums with people that were really into My-Hime and like discussed all this stuff in depth?
I have never actually managed to put myself out there and actually jump into the discussion, but I like finding and reading the discussions, if that makes sense.
No, that does completely.
Like I always hesitate to put my own opinions out there for the longest time, because I was always scared of just like, no, that's stupid and it doesn't work. But like I did still love like finding other people's like thoughts and opinions and reading up on it, and using those to fill in the gaps that I might have had, and that's I found that a lot of my more nostalgic series, there are times when I'm like, but didn't this happen? No, that was just me filling in the gaps in my head. Okay.
Well, you didn't actually answer my full question. Do you feel same way about it now, or is that just or has that changed at all?
Yeah, is it the same or is it different now?
Definitely now, upon a more mature rewatch, definitely see the flaws of the series better than I did when I was younger. And there's some more problematic things that happen in the series that I'm like, yeah, I didn't remember that part. I must have glossed over.
You were just enamored by all the badass females and the cool mech-ass child designs.
And the boobs.
The plot. There's
plot.
There's a bit of plot in this series.
Speaking of the plot, like, how did everybody else like feel about the progression of the story? Now that we've gotten kind of like what John felt before he went into it, because I think that's where we can have a lot of discussion. Because I don't personally, I'm in my court, I don't think that the story is the strong part of this show. I do think it does have some good aspects, but I think the story is the weakest portion.
There are parts where I thought this was fine, but then as the story went on, I think it just got weaker and weaker, and it felt rushed in parts. Like, there's like multiple plot lines, and some felt fine, but then others are just like, how did we get here? No, we're here though.
Yeah, I very much agree with Craig. Like, I had such a general sense with this show that there was such a huge cast and such a vast, like, just intertwining plot of so many different stories and so many different arcs that, like, and all of them were just so grand that it was, like, impossible to get all of them resolved within that time. And a lot of times too, like, they would drop big plot points in like certain arcs, and then like 2 episodes would go by, and then they go back to it again, and that was really like clunky for me and gave me like a really hard time even keeping track outside of like the storytelling they attempted to do. I had a very hard time following along and getting attached to too many story points because everything just felt like it was just too much at like one time, you know?
Yeah, it was trying to juggle it, and some felt really rushed.
And whenever, I think the more the series went on, the less I cared about the plot twists.
I agree.
The first few, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, but by the end, it seemed like they were kind of trying to set up more things without answering questions that they already presented.
Yeah.
And then it just seemed like they were doing it just because. Why are we doing this? Because we said so.
Yes.
There's no explanation for things that happen, and that's very frustrating.
Yeah, there's no real rhyme or reason.
And I was talking to Cammie about it, and briefly to correct you, and I think the thing that bothers me most about the story of My-Hime is that if I could just turn my brain off and just sit and coast through what the basics of what the show gave me, I think I would have had a better time. But I couldn't because My-Hime likes to take itself way too seriously.
Yeah, it really does.
And every time I tried to get to a point where I could actually enjoy what was on screen or what they were doing, they would throw in something either nonsensical, really stupid fan service for no point, or they would drop a gigantic load on my face, and I just was not having it.
Yeah, sometimes those tonal shifts too, I think especially during the first half, were just really jarring. Like you'd have... Like, I remember watching episode 8 and being like, oh man, things are getting kind of serious. And then literally, like, the next episode or two are just kind of, like, lighthearted fluff.
Filler.
And I was like, this is I don't know what to make of this.
Time to make a cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, here's this horrifying thing that happened that to be fair, this was early on in the series, so I was in. I was like, oh my god, that's so interesting. Like, okay, what's going to happen with this?
Yeah.
And then, boom, we had a beach episode. And then right after that, boom, we're going to go make some cake. Like, it just...
Yeah.
It's almost like they're flipping off the fans. Like, oh, you were invested? Well, that sucks for you, because we're going to go and do our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not something I particularly enjoyed. I also didn't... how did you guys feel about the relationships in the show when it came to, like, character building? I guess we could go into that, but...
I didn't like 90% of them. I'll be honest. It ranges from, like, very weird and not... They don't commit, they don't talk, and some of them are downright toxic. Relationship-wise, in my opinion. There's only one relationship that I find that's actually half decent.
Because those are a main part of the plot, too, because I think the cool thing about My-Hime is some of its themes, like what love is and your attachments to other people.
Yeah.
And how those can interweave. And I did like some of that, but the problem is so many of them were unlikable.
Yeah. Yeah. Craig, you said one relationship. I think for me there were two that I...
oh, okay, fair. Yeah,
that I cared
I
about.
forgot about the second one.
I cared about, like, two as well. There was... And to be fair, one was a same-sex relationship and one was a heterosexual relationship. So it was like, okay, cool.
That's really good, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. But then everyone else was toxic, melodramatic, or there was no purpose to the build-up between the characters involved. And it was just very frustrating.
This also isn't something that I think is iconic to just this show, but it's a trope, especially in some like mid-2000 animes that I don't like, where they let love triangles make girls so toxic to each other, and they just literally hate each other, and they don't have like any viewpoint of like seeing the other person as like another human being, or like they could be friends. Like it's literally just blindsiding. Like I literally hate you because of my like shallow feelings for this boy. And as I get older, especially, I just don't have a lot of patience for that. So it kind of wore me down here.
Yeah, it's an unfavorable trope.
I just look at it logically and I'm like, you don't talk with each other.
Yeah.
Why are you not talking with each other? This could be so much easier if you just said, okay, we have an altercation. We have a different viewpoint. Okay. Let's talk about this. Instead, let's create melodrama and tension and pan that out for 4 episodes at a time by saying, oh, well, I'm gonna look away from you and distance myself. It's a trope and I hate it in anime. Like, again, as I get older, I'm like, I don't really have time for that unless I shouldn't even say unless. I mean, at this point, it's just kind of like, it's just a deterrent and don't waste my time with it.
What about you, John? You haven't got to really talk much during this section.
Yeah, I'm just, like, again, I forgot just how toxic some of the relationships are. I was, like, just ignorant to it when I was younger.
I think that's fair, like...
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that me and Cammie were having a conversation recently where we were talking about, like, shoujo manga that we used to like, or yaoi manga that we used to like, and looking back on it now, it's just, I don't know if I can even go back and read it because it's so problematic.
Yeah. So,
kind of
I
thing.
mean, so it's fair. Like, yeah, I agree. And like I said, and I know Cassie and I both feel this way, and Craig, maybe you can weigh in, but if I'd watched this when I was like 16 or 17, I probably would have bought into it a lot more and would have, given into even some of those things that I now know are tropes. Like, there definitely is a time and place aspect there.
There's a time and place, and also it's, I guess, how much are you willing to look past this? And like me, when I'm looking at this critically, I'm like, well, that's a problem. But let's face it, even now there are shows with problematic elements in them, and some people can look past those. This one, I'm just kind of like, no, I can't really look past it. It's kind of pulling me down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I think it's also just how they built them up, too.
Yes.
Like, that's the, like, some of the couples or just general relationships between the characters, sometimes they would just be dropped on you, like, oh, hey, here's this term. By the way, they were in love with each other the whole time, or at least one of them was. And then they drop another bombshell, and then that's just not well done. But then others, they drag through the entire show, and then there's no resolve.
Yeah.
So you've got like both of those crammed in here. So it's like I've got one thing that frustrates me, and then when I'm done looking at that, I got another thing that frustrates me.
And then you get a glimmer of light with two certain pairings where it's like, oh, this is good. This is good. Why can't the whole show be this?
It also should be noted that a lot of more problems outside of just the couples is really just kind of like steeped in, oh, we'll try and drip feed you all these name dropped like entities or organizations. And
I hated that.
And like, we'll talk about this in the spoiler section, but like, even the handling of like the information is kind of like weak. Like there's like the ultimate culmination, in my opinion at least, at the end of the show is like, man, this show really has good production for its time, good character designs. I feel as though the children mech like animalistic designs were really fucking cool. Fight choreography is dope. Again, Cass, you said you and Cammy were like, oh man, we could make stellar action AMVs with this. And I agree, but...
Well, we'll get to production later.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say is that on rewatch, when I did decide to rewatch, I am like realizing how much I'd forgotten about this series. One worry I had was like, oh man, am I gonna hate the characters that I thought were my favorite characters when I was younger? Am I gonna see them as like... Thankfully, my favorite characters from when I was younger are still my favorite fucking characters.
Yes.
That's good.
One relationship that I really latched onto because it grabbed my attention and was like, this is something different for you, is still my favorite pairing in the series. So should I go ahead and say who my favorite character is?
I guess that's a natural lead into characters, isn't it?
Sure, but maybe without giving spoilers, because you can say their name without saying, all of the aspects of them.
Yeah, so, like, a character that really took me by surprise when I first watched it and, like, ended up becoming my favorite character in the series is Akira, who is Takemi's classmate and roommate.
Yep.
Yeah, I really don't want to go into why or how, because major spoilers. They just took me by surprise, and I was like, okay, you've now got my attention.
Yep.
What is it about you? And then, yeah, they just end up becoming my favorite character, and they're great.
They also have some of the best character development in the show.
Yeah.
The pacing with the character development also the best in the show, in my opinion.
Maybe that's what's also so frustrating, because they show they can do it, and then they just only do it with a couple of characters.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. Like, Akira's resolve is something that I really admire about that character a lot. Like, everything they said, I was like, this makes sense. This is good morals. Yes, everybody be more like Akira.
Can you quit being dumbasses and listen?
And even when they had moments where there were a couple of moments of melodrama with that particular character, but they didn't seem, or not melodrama, they had moments of drama, sorry.
Yeah.
Of drama. And normally they were short little scenes, because I think that's pretty kind of interesting to say that Akira, for the most part, is a side character.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow they're more compelling, even in their moments of drama, than most of the main characters, I guess you could argue.
Yep.
Yep, totally agree.
I liked Akira a lot as well.
Same, for all the reasons stated.
The other character that I really, really loved, like, at first, just as a silly meme, because she fits like an archetype that I like, was Haruka. And I'll shorthand it and just say that to me, she's like a Nanami, but with good morals and now no kitten killing. So,
Oh God.
So I love her a lot. In this show that for me personally was steeped in a lot of sexism, she was like a very just like pro-feminist like figure, and I really appreciated that about her.
She even had some lines that were like, "Oh, well, that's easy for you to say. You're a dude. Like, maybe think of it from our point of view for a minute." Or, I don't think it would be a spoiler to say that one point she like almost goes up and decks a guy because they're intruding on her school. Like, she's a very headstrong character, but in a way that's actually compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think her interactions with her friend Yukino were very pure, and I liked watching them on screen together, even though Yukino isn't a character I liked as much. Them being together as a unit was just so fun to watch, and I believed everything that happened between them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I did too.
There's, like, going back to my thoughts of, like, am I gonna hate a character that I used to love? On the other hand, I didn't used to like her. I was annoyed by her when I was younger, and I didn't like her, like, any scene that she was in, until, like, right at the end, where, like, okay, you've earned my respect now. But upon rewatching, like, even I had actually completely forgotten that scene where she had earned my respect, but through a more mature lens, I was like, no, I like this character now. She's fine. She's cool. And then that scene happened, and it was like, yeah, I remember this now. I remember her earning my respect with this scene.
Even with Haruka, the drama, or the, like, even if there is melodrama with her, it wasn't really insufferable in comparison to other characters. This is a large cast, so the interactions with her and Yukino and other characters is actually half decent, in my opinion. Like, in the first couple of episodes, I was like, oh, it's the student council president, or rather the executive committee president, where she's like, oh, I'm headstrong and I'm kind of bitchy towards everyone and I hate everyone. But eventually I was like, you know what, that's her shtick, I get it. But at the same time, you know what, she's more enjoyable to watch than 3/4 of the rest of the fucking cast.
I think what's great about Haruka too is that I don't think she hated everybody. She was just very determined.
Yeah,
to
fair point.
Be this,
absolutely,
and it's touched upon later on that she wants to be in a higher position. She goes for that goal head on, even though sometimes it's silly.
Yeah.
So that's what makes her interesting. I also wanted to give a shout out to Midori as well, because I liked her as well. She was fun. But I think the problem is that in comparison, I can't even say all the things I really like about Midori, even though she has so many characteristics that I liked in a couple of scenes that I liked. Like the majority of the cast, she got shafted. There's so many characters that not all of them were fleshed out, and some of them that were, I didn't care. I think that's another problem.
Yeah, it was like a choice of who basically they prioritized in the story. And a lot of them, I think for a majority of us, were not really enjoyed. John, I have a question because I feel like I know Craig and Cassie's answer. Just yes or no. Did you like Now?
Girl who licked her cat.
Yeah. Oh God!
Slurp the noodles.
I didn't hate her. But she was definitely not one of my favorite characters. But she was interesting. she definitely brought something different to the cast, and how, like, again, wish we could see more of it, but like how she ended up playing off the parallels between her and Natsuki.
Yeah.
And again, wish we had more of Natsuki to see this, and just like it would have been so much better if we had just seen these two like actually talk a bit more, and like
I won't expand on it, but I think my thing is that her arc just circles. To me, she never really like had full development. She just kind of got from point A to point B and then did that over again, and that made her kind of I guess that just made me frustrated as why she was on screen for so long, because I'm like, you could have just done point A and point B and then kind of pushed her into obscurity, but
yeah,
they had other plans.
Yeah. Also, I think that you spend most of the time not understanding why she is how she is, and then when they finally explain why, it seems very shoot in. Because it's a part of the plot that feels very shoot in. So that's unfortunate.
And again, like that the bit I do like about her is that shoot in bit, and only because of how she plays off against another character with admittedly equally somewhat shoot in plot towards the end. Yeah, production. So interesting tidbit about the production of this series, or this franchise even, when it comes to My-Hime. There is actually a game and a manga series that were all developed at the same time.
Yep.
Oh my god.
They, I don't know like which group it was that decided to come up with it, but someone was like, okay, here's a bunch of characters, here's their names, here's their designs, here's some other parts of their designs. Go have fun. Here's a group for you to make an anime, here's for you to make a game, and here's for you to make a manga. What do you want with the story? Up to you. What relationship? Up to you. And as a result, there are very, very different stories. I haven't checked out the game to know what that's about, but I did try reading the manga, and I couldn't even get through volume 1. That was a train wreck.
Yoinks, man.
But yeah.
Do you want to know the staff of the anime?
Sure.
Yes.
Director is Kei Oikawa. Directed My-Hime, My-Otome, all the Mai's, as well as Excel World. This guy hasn't really done a lot. The head writer, Hiroyuki Yoshino. The assistant writer for Code Geass and R2. Did Macross Frontier. Did Excel World. Guilty Crown. And developed the My-Otome manga. Co-authored it.
Everything makes sense now.
Yes. And obviously the music by Yuki Kajura, Dot Hack Sign, Tsubasa, Fate Zero, Madoka Magica, and Sword Art Online, and Erased. That music is really fucking good, yo.
The music's amazing.
She also formed Calafina. Just saying.
God. The music in the show is so good, and the animation is... You know, this is why I wish I could have turned my brain off to watch this show. Because if I could have just had a purely aesthetic experience...
Then you would have loved it.
I probably would have loved the shit out of this show. Because when it stopped trying to be more than it was so fucking enjoyable production-wise.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I loved the production in this show.
This is another series that I'm like, I want the OST to this. Can I still get the OST for this? Probably not in any legal means.
One of the main soundtrack pieces sounded really familiar to me, and it's like the somber version of it where it's just the women like singing. It happened during like episode 8, Serious Moment, and some other ones past that. I was like, where do I know this from? And then I realized it was one of those songs that back in like the early 2000s, everyone editing on Windows Movie Maker would have like some anime song as their like intro thing, and somewhat like people definitely use that. Like it was right up there with the like Ghost in the Shell song that everybody used. I was like, oh man, this is iconic. Look at that.
Nice.
The music in it just this time just stood out to me. Yeah. And yeah, there was moments like in the animation itself that, like, even to today's standards, I'm like, there is newer anime that doesn't look this good.
Lots of fluidity in the action scenes, which I
very
really
much so.
appreciated a lot. Yeah, and I mean, I think Cassie put it the best when she said, like, the way they're choreographed. And you know what? That's not something I usually really think of, like how fights are choreographed, but I think that's a very good way to encapsulate it here. Everything's just like well designed in the fights and action scenes, and I like that.
Good
a lot.
action A and B's abound with this one, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I had to edit a action AMV, I think that, like, as much as the entirety of the show, maybe I didn't love the whole package, but I could go back and probably edit with it and be like, God, yeah, this scene was so freaking cool. Probably my favorite ones was in the first episode of the show is so good. There's a scene where Mikoto fights Natsuki on the boat. And I just loved the shit out of that scene.
Carves a truck in half.
And it looked cool. There's a lot of hand-drawn stuff in the show, too. That's just really nice.
Before the age of CG, so all the children are all hand-drawn. This is early.
Oh, that's true. Imagine if they remade it. They'd CG the children.
That sounds really awkward out of context.
They CG the children.
They CG'd the children.
Oh, no!
Slight tangent. It goes into my issues with, like, the just kind of overt, like, sexist tones in the show. I hate the fact that they're basically these princesses, whatever, and then it's children, and, like, and then there's just stuff about marriage and birth and stuff. Drives me nuts.
Anyway. That's one of the themes that really bothered me, too. And if we're talking about production, I feel like we do need to blink its fan service for a second, because that is the only thing about the second half that I liked more than the first. The only thing is the fact that they finally stopped with the fan service, because it was disgusting. It was just gross in the first half.
Yeah, whole episode dedicated to a panty thief. Really fucking added a lot to the lore, didn't it?
Yeah, I completely forgot about that episode until, like, right before everyone started watching it, and then I was like, oh fuck, yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it?
It's not even the panty thief that bothers me, it's the fucking tentacle monster.
Yeah.
The tentacle monsters. I also hated that there was this ongoing joke where Mikoto always had to shove her face right in Mai's boobs. I hated that there was times where she would fall literally into girls' skirts. Like, it's just...
Early 2000 hijinks! Hoi hoi hoi!
It's for a specific audience, and that audience is not me.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I'm not shaming anybody who's into it. It just, wasn't really what I was looking for.
I think when I was younger and originally watching it, I loved it, but now I'm older, I'm like,
It's funny because, like, if a show's all, like, about that sort of thing, like, oh, Keijo, fan service, boobs and butts, they battle with them, and owns it. This show, it's just like, oh, we have strong, independent women with, like, superpowers and elemental magics and shit like that. Bam, that's pretty badass. Random episode of, oh, we gotta go stop the panty thief. What? Why? Okay, I guess. Comedy? Question mark? That's not really comedic, but whatever.
I think that's the other problem with this show, is that it was marketed to me as, like, a female empowerment piece, and it's the exact opposite. And that seeps into the production, story, characters, everything. It's not a female empowerment piece, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, and funny enough, I think the characters that we loved the most had, like, the least bits of fan service to them.
Yep.
What did you guys think about the opening?
Yeah, that was good.
It was okay.
The opening made me nostalgic. I liked it a lot. It wasn't, like, my favorite opening I've ever seen in my life, or even one of my favorite ones I've seen this year, but it just made me nostalgic.
John, what did that noise mean?
The opening ending was super nostalgic for me. I was like, yeah, I fucking loved these at the time and then again they slipped out of memory, and then randomly came across the opening again by chance. I was like, fuck yeah, I love this. I remember this now. And then when I watched it actually play out for the episode, I was like, yeah, this opening.
Nice. On a music piece, I appreciated the ending more.
Same.
I just kind of liked, how somber and like reflective it was. Also, credit to this show and its production. They did the thing I love where they creep in the ending music at like the end scene of the episode, and that worked well in certain moments. So sometimes it didn't, but when it did, it was good.
Especially the end of episode 2. I think that because that's when Mai first truly awakens, and so she's spinning, and you start hearing the music as she's just slowly spinning.
Oh yeah, now I remember that. That was really pretty.
That is one of summons Kagutsuchi.
Okay. Yeah. Technically the episode before she summons Kagutsuchi.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but she's like about to. So, yeah. It's interesting. I do think for the most part, like the voice acting in here was really good. Craig, well, you have a whole different story
in
to
the
tell.
Japanese.
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
I do. I have both experiences.
In Japanese, I enjoyed the voice acting, though I will say, and maybe it's just the character they played, but like Akira Ishida is one of my favorite seiyuu, and I hated like the character he voiced, and I didn't like the way he voiced him, and it just irritated me.
It sounded gross.
Yeah, he was just trying to be nasal sounding, which fits the appearance. But anyway, yeah. And then John, didn't you look up like a lot of the actors and discover some cool stuff?
I did look up a bunch of the voice actors, and so many of them are like still active and have a number of key roles under their belts. For example, Midori Sugiura, who is one of our favorite characters, unfortunately didn't get much screen time in the end, is voiced by Yukari Tamura, aka Nanaha, or Bigetta HK, or so many other magical girls. She's in Pretty Cure, and like this goes on and on and on.
Yeah. You want to know about my experience with the English dub?
I do. I really do.
So basically, while doing my research into the production, I realized that the show had a dub. It's one of the Bandai Entertainment licenses. They did the dubbing for Code Geass, Code Geass R2, Gurren Lagann, Ghost in the Shell. But most of those dubs are LA-based. They decided to dub My-Hime in Canada, but not with the primary teams that dub a lot of the Gundam shit. It's the B-tier Canadian voice actors. Fun fact, they are the same team that dubbed Kisniver. So I don't know how well that dub is. I haven't watched it. This dub, vice versa, a lot of the Canadians don't have wiki pages. The voice actors from Mai and Mikoto have done the most random and obscure shit. Mikoto is Pan from Dragon Ball GT.
Okay.
And as I was watching this, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch 4 episodes of this dubbed. And I kept watching more. I'm like, you know what? I'm on episode 8. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna switch to Japanese. Oh shit, I finished the show. Why did I watch Deadpan show in English? I'm like, you know what? Whatever. It's a product of its time in dub and scripting sense, I guess, where it's just like, man, it is flat. Mai's voice actress says, Kugutsuchi or Mikoto. And I'm like, it's so good. If they redub this, it would be so good. But I joined in with you guys starting with episode 16 or 17 of the Japanese. I'm like, you know what? It's good, because they've actually gone on to do shit, and I can hear other voices that they've done in more recent anime, so, yeah.
It was just on rewatch, I was like, these characters sound so familiar now. Like, I remember hearing these voices in other roles. It's gonna bug me, which is why I started looking them up. I was like, oh fuck, they were them. Oh fuck, they were them.
Mm-hmm.
So many of them, just like A-tier cast.
I think for me, it's just that I think it was the direction. And I think that a lot of the problems in this production, for where the production has problems such as the story, the characters, the whole, plate of food that's being put in front of me, a lot of it's direction problems. And as soon as Craig read out all of the directorial credits, I was like, I get it. I get why this was such a slog for me. Because, like Cammie said, a lot of the characters, I think, were great voice actors and actresses. But some of their portrayals were really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't just one or two. It was a good deal of the cast, actually. Now being one of them, Tate being a big one. There was just so many weird ways that lines were delivered in the Japanese. I did not watch the English. Where I was happy that the voices and the quality was there, but it just didn't always hit for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely get a sense of that. Especially, like, there wasn't really a quality of grasping nuance to certain characters. Like, who probably could have used a little bit of nuance is Miyu, and there was none, so...
Yeah, she was real flat.
Yeah, and, like, it's like, I know that is, like, by basis of character design, like, I get why they think they could get away with that, but there are many similar character archetypes in other shows that I won't go into, but that have nuance to their voice performances, despite being the archetype that she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yep, same. It's even flatter in the English. Let me tell you, Miyu is... I thought she was Michelle Ruff, but it's not Michelle Ruff.
I'd be happy if it was Michelle Ruff, shoot. I feel like there were unique character designs, but some of them were just a little, like, wonky looking for me sometimes, and it, like, took me out a little bit. But that's fine. Like, it's also just kind of a product of the time that the show was made. So, yeah.
Ratings?
Oh, yeah, it is on to ratings now, isn't it?
So, John goes last.
Yeah, I go last because it was my host choice, so...
I'm so curious to hear what Cass has to say.
Yeah, who to throw under the bus first?
That's in your control, John.
I have the power!
I'm gonna make a request to not make you go first, 'cause I'm trying to word what I want to say.
Alright, how about I go in the same order that I introduced everyone? So, Cammie, how about you go?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give disclaimer too. This isn't a very eloquent final thoughts because I just finished this show like a couple hours ago. Like, time and place is such a big thing for me because I can absolutely see why people had watched My-Hime in the past, like whether they were younger or it was just the time period and what was out and what was popular in anime. I can see why people enjoyed My-Hime. I can see why they liked it. I can see pieces of the story and the characters and, of course, the good production that I also would have bought into at, like, a different time in my life. It's just a case where I'm watching it at a time where I think that, like, what made it so fresh basically is no longer there for me. So it was a very, like, kind of tepid watch. John, I know you mentioned, Nadeshiko earlier, and I said this like distinctly to Cassie. I was like, I do enjoy this more than Nadeshiko. So like, props on My-Hime for that. Like, it definitely wasn't like a terrible watch or anything, but I just feel like at this point in my life, a lot of what it had to offer, I didn't appreciate. I'm gonna give it a check it because I think it's an okay show. And if you are invested in maybe like a nostalgia kick for that time or like some of the tropes that were present in like mid 2000s anime. And honestly, if you want something with like a very unique, like, premise and world building and stuff, I say definitely give it a shot. I'm not really sure what you'll come out thinking of it, but yeah, check it out. Alternate anime recommendations is for another mid-2000s anime called Kaleido Star, which also has a primarily female cast, and there is the interesting dynamics of, like, character parallels, and there's some drama, some melodrama. I think it handles its melodrama a little bit better than My-Hime, but I remember some parts where I was like, it's a little much. But, you know, that can be part of its quirky charm. It's also got the mid-2000s art. It's really pretty. A nice, like, unique story as well. So, yeah, go check it out.
Right on.
All right, then, Craig.
Okie doke. So I'll just give my surface level thing here. I knew about My-Hime, hell, even in the early days of anime when I fucking watched Haruhi Suzumiya and Fate Stay Night and Full Metal Alchemist 2003 in the early aughts of the internet age. I knew about the show mostly because a lot of fan art existed, or not fan art, more like official production art where it's just like, oh, look at these characters together, and that kind of like made me keenly aware of one couple. I will say more in the spoiler section, but yeah, this is a definite show where it seems like a time and place sort of thing, and in the time, I guess, like, you could turn your brain off in the early 2000s and be like, man, this is really fucking stupid, but man, is it really well done. But watching this now, there are parts of this where it just dragged. Honestly, I've been using this term, like, in my head, where I was just like, if I watch this, it feels like homework. And sometimes it felt like doing homework, where I had to watch it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, oh my god, I have to watch 26 episodes in a week for a fucking review. And then I'm like, I get in, and I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty well done. Oh, now we're back at the bad pacing. Point is, it definitely has flaws. It does have problematic shit. Some other representation of relationships are range from half decent to melodramatic as fuck to toxic and possessive as fuck. So bottom line, I want to say give this a check. If you do not like it by episode 6, then you're or 6 or 8. I know that's a tall order, but that's the hook by episode 7 or 8 is what the hook of the show is. For alternate anime recommendations, I want to recommend you a 90s show, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, or Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Kimmy, did I get that right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, cool. Mostly on the fact that they have, much like My-Hime, they have magical powers that are element-based, and there is good romance in there. It does have melodrama, but it's not insufferable in Sailor Moon. And hey, it's cute, and it does strike a good balance of comedy, daily lives at school, and fighting monsters of the week. In My-Hime's case, the orphans. So,
all right. I think that the best phrase that I could think to come up with, I did. I think My-Hime, out of all the shows I've watched recently, is the best summary of your mileage may vary. I think that, and that's just the essence of a check it. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. It's a check it for me. But the reason why is that if somebody had come up to me and said, Cassie, there is a situation where there is a poorly handled sexual assault in this anime, which I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. You deserve to know that. There's toxic masculinity on blast. And if those things make you feel uncomfortable, do not watch this show. I would not have watched this show. And because I did, there were moments where I actually felt extremely uncomfortable. Also, the biggest problem with My-Hime is there is no payoff. Everything that you get invested in doesn't matter by the end. And the ending is not well done. It's not well orchestrated. The story is not good.
Sloppy.
So it's sloppy at best. So if that is something that you need going into a show, do not watch this show. However, if you think that you can, regardless of melodrama or how much a show makes you want to care, if you're able to turn your brain off and you're able to turn off those specific problematic elements for yourself personally, I think that you might have a good time here. And that's the best that I can really give you. I think that there's a possibility that someone could go into My-Hime and like it. It's just I personally did not. So I would advise you to give the first couple episodes a watch. But again, if any of those elements that I mentioned to you trigger you or make you feel uncomfortable, you're going to be uncomfortable. Just don't watch it.
And your alternate?
My ultimate anime recommendation is also a 2000s, early 2000s anime, Shakugan no Shana. It is a show about a badass female heroine who goes around doing badass feminine things. She's wonderful. I love her. She's one of the first female characters I really latched on to when I was younger and really made me feel powerful. She was also my first cosplay. So there's a lot of nostalgia there for me. And I think that where My-Hime markets powerful women and fails, that show markets powerful women and succeeds.
There you go.
There are also fire powers, and they're used more than 3 times.
God, man. That's the one thing that got me into Shakugan no Shana. I was like, I remember seeing clips of it, and I was like, oh, this chick's got a sword and fire powers. I'm in.
Yeah. Shakugan no Shana, I believe, is a good show, and one that I need to personally go back and rewatch. So if you want to have some fun with some sword fighting and a badass redheaded female, go for it. Shakugan no Shana is great and also has pretty good fight choreography and good music as well. So check it out.
On a personal level, nostalgia goggles and everything, I really enjoyed this show. I really like it. I still really like it. But upon rewatch, yeah, I still like it, but upon rewatch, looking at it more objectively and with a more mature lens, yeah, I can definitely see the problematic elements that I overlooked when I was younger, and definitely hesitate to actually objectively rate this any more than to check it. Personally, love it. Personally like it now, but objectively, yeah, check it. It's not going to be for everyone. There are elements that are going to rub people the wrong way. Things that I completely forgot about when I chose this as my host choice. And only remembered as they started coming up, and I was like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that was the thing. But I still really enjoyed rewatching this, though. And nostalgia goggles, there's still plenty to enjoy about this series, but yeah, your mileage may vary, as Cassie said, so
Well, there you go.
check it. As for an alternate anime recommendation, mine is a bit different. Mine is, if you did enjoy this series and you do want to see more of the characters, then I do suggest you check out My-Otome. It's alternate universe, but with pretty much the entire same cast. Different scenario, different setup, different setting, completely different world. Whereas My-Hime is set on Earth, My-Otome is set on effectively a completely different planet. And we actually have 2 different main characters who are actually both present in My-Hime, just in the background, don't even have voice line, don't actually have any voice acting. Nina Wong is actually the girl that sits next to Mai in class in My-Hime, and Akari, I think is her name. I keep forgetting on it, blanking on her name. Or is it Arika? I know it's very similar to Akira, but it's not Akira. She appears in like the last scene of the series. But yeah, but beyond those two characters, like, pretty much the rest of the My-Hime cast is present and accounted for. I do say watch My-Hime first, before Otome, because it expects you to watch Hime before Otome, so certain character reveals end up carrying over, and therefore it's already a spoiler. You're supposed to already know about them. But yeah, even though it's a different universe, it's same personality, same character, many of the same relationships. Though I will give one relationship is that it's far less toxic in Otome than it is in Hime. I will give it that.
Gotcha.
If you don't want to hear any My-Hime spoilers, then bye-bye. If you're fine with sticking around for spoilers, then it's time for us to head over to the spoiler room.
Where do we begin?
Yeah, where to begin? I think everyone else has more to say than I do here.
Can we start at the end and work backwards?
Sure!
Because the
Why
ending
not?
was some of the stupidest shit I've seen in years. I literally made a joke going into it where I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if everybody came back and they all ate cake?
They didn't eat cake!
They didn't eat cake! That's the only thing I was off on, and I was like, I would be really mad if that happened.
But they did karaoke.
They did.
That was... all of the sacrifices and annoying shit that happened up until that point became pointless.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been cool if, Mashiro, wheelchair chick, actually fucking explained the plot and explained it.
I do not understand why she was there at all. I do not understand, like, why she suddenly became significant in, like, the end. I don't understand, like, where her allegiances lie. I don't get her at fucking all, and it frustrates me because I enjoyed her character design, and I was like, I want to like this character, but I just can't. Ugh.
She was pointless. She was there to be a deus ex machina at the
Yes.
end. And you know what? There were several times where she'd be like, oh, I'm going to explain to you what happened. And then they'll cut away.
Yep.
And then cut back at the end of the conversation, which makes me think the production team or the writers of the show actually had no idea what the fuck they wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like when you look at the whole resolve of like, what do you want out of life? And literally she goes, I want to do the thing that I love the most. Cuts to fucking karaoke. I'm like, why did we make this a major plot point if we're not even going to address it? That's great.
But point of the matter is, the ending, holy mother of God. I was like, man, when Cass called, they're all gonna go join, the Hime force is going to go and fucking pile drop the star and blow it up. When she said, man, why do they have to do a battle royale? Why can't they just fucking team up and battle the star? Nothing says that they can team up and destroy the star.
Yeah, and guess what fucking happened?
Ta-da! I laughed.
This show is so stupid when it comes to its plot points. Like, there is no reason half the shit that happened should have happened. They didn't even give good reasons why they... Honestly, if it weren't for the nun girl, which, again, nobody asked any fucking questions, they just started attacking now. If anybody asked any fucking questions, none of it would have happened. That's what made that really frustrating and unbearable to watch.
Listen, now it was already on the outs with everyone. She was a bitch, and all she wanted to do was attack men. But then, spoiler alert, she really just loves her mom right when she lost her Hime, or her child.
Yeah.
I'd like to do some spoken word from a reaction haiku that I delivered to Cassie while I was watching the last episode.
Okay.
Just keep in mind it's all caps lock, and it's not actually a haiku. Mai's realization at the end that she should tell someone she loves them is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. You dumb bitch, it took you 26 fucking episodes to state the obvious? Thank you very much. I fucking hated that resolve. I hated it, and I hated the fact that she fucking, like, actually, it made me laugh. It made me laugh when Tate was dying, and she's like, no, you still have to hear the way I feel, and he's like, I'm sorry, I can't hear. I was like, eat it, bitch! Thank you. Sorry.
She effectively never actually told him how she felt in the end.
I mean, she kinda did, but... Ugh.
Listen, they were going steady in the fucking happy-go-lucky ending.
No, they weren't. Nothing was resolved by
Fair,
the end.
fair.
Yeah,
Shiho
they
went on a picnic.
and everybody was still fighting. The dude isn't evil anymore. Date the student council president.
Right?
He's not evil anymore. He's not possessed.
Oh my god. I can't. I could not, like, with their relationship at all, outside of one conversation in episode 5 that I liked.
Fucking talk. And,
yeah.
Oh, Shiho didn't add any fuel to that fire.
Oh my
or rather,
God.
she did. Because she's like, oh, brother, do you love me? And I was audibly, when watching these episodes with Cass and John the other day, she says, as she knows Mai can hear, kiss me, she says, as Mai can see. Mai sees, oh no!
What a tragedy.
Yeah.
I fucking did not care for Shiho, like, at all. Like, I got her shtick at the beginning, but holy mother of God, did she turn into a vindictive bitch at the end.
I remember, like, when... Like, before we even started, any of us started watching it, I think Cammy...
It was me. I made the wrong decision.
You pointed out Shiho, and you was like, but I've seen some stuff, or I heard something about, is she a yandere? And I was like, I wouldn't describe her as yandere.
No, yanderes are well-developed characters who devolve into sanity. Nobody in this show is a well-built-up character outside of Akira and, like, 2 others.
Yeah.
The yandere, clearly, you're talking about Shizuru, who...
She's not a yandere either. She's just a terrible person.
Uh,
Which, by the way, I hated the bit where they were all flying as the Hime Force and she's there, and then she's just like,
oh my
forgive
God.
me! And everybody's just like sweat drop. Yes, because sexual assault is something that, you know, should just be taken that lightly.
You just, like, your reaction audibly was laugh, and I'm like, oh, is that how we're gonna describe it? Oh, I nearly killed you now. I nearly killed you, Yukino. Sorry.
I raped and mind broke you, Natsuki. Glad we're on good terms.
Yeah, that was...
I mean, it can't be any worse than the creeper artist who essentially soiled, sullied, raped, and knocked up a nun.
I think Cassie made a good point, though. Cassie makes a good point.
I talked to Cammy about this, and I was like, I don't like it, but that was at least built up better, and the nun understood how fucked up the situation was. She had a resolve that she was traumatized by what happened. She had confused feelings. And at some point those got resolved, which I'm still not okay with, because rape babies are totally okay. And should be played up as if it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not problematic. But no, like, the stuff with the nun and the painter, that was a toxic relationship that was shown, in my opinion, in a, not a good way, but in a believable way.
Where you can actually see it devolve into fucking the disaster that it is.
Whereas with Natsuki and Crazy, it's, oh, I obviously traumatized you. You show that you're traumatized, that you're not into her, that you are absolutely heartbroken by the fact that your friend would do something to you. Then that's the thing. Like, they threw in that they were, like, best buddies for the longest time at the end, too, which was clunky and stupidly delivered. But also, all of that is just, oh, I will kiss you and forgive you because I love you. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. That entire scene just made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was like the biggest tonal whiplash where she's like, oh, I'll have the flashback of her laying with me nude and essentially feeling me up and have that horror nightmare flashback 3 times over. But then the next episode be like, you're the reason why I was able to trust people again. I love you.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of trust there. Oh my god.
Like, the jump to conclusions on that was fucking astronomical.
Yeah, and it upsets me. I was just, like, looking at the My-Hime tag on Tumblr while we were discussing, and literally 90% of it is, like, that ship and
Yep.
people really
Yeah.
idolizing that ship. And I'm like, oh, that's such a damn shame that because, like, you know, representation has always been, like, scarce in anime, that, like, a lot of people grew up, like, idolizing that ship. Just because it is, you know, and that sucks.
That's the official art that I saw years before I even sat down to watch this. I was like, oh, so it's the blue-haired girl and the brunette. Okay, are we going to see this drip fed throughout the series? Are they going to be like, is Natsuki going to confide in Shizuru? No. Oh, okay, it's last 4 or 5 episodes. Wow, this is rapey really fast. Okay, cool.
If there was one thing that turned me off the entire series, it was that. Like, up until that, it was like, this is just dumb. But then I got to that point, and I was like, I am actually uncomfortable. I'm, like, laughing because I'm uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how to deal with the emotions I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the couple that I was hinting at in My-Otome. They're pretty much a canon couple in Otome, but yeah, without any of the problematic elements, she's just teases Natsuki a lot in a very playful way, and it's like, okay, that's fine. There's none of the problematic. That is a different universe. None of that shit happened.
Oh,
there, it's fine. This,
gotcha.
That did happen. This is not okay.
Yeah.
I wish they would have just left it at the kiss that she gave her when she was asleep, because that to me seemed more like I'm conflicted about what I'm doing and how I feel about her, and it's still wrong, but it would be infinitely better than I sexually assaulted you when you were unconscious.
Yeah.
Also, does anybody understand District 1? Because I don't.
Nope.
Oh, no. You mean the organization that was wiped out, like, by Shizuru, and all loose ends are tied up because the writers couldn't think of what to do?
Can anybody explain to me what a Valkyrie is?
One of the 12 Hime.
But they really heavily emphasize that Mai was one of the Valkyries, which I'm assuming means a special Hime. But then they never actually went into what that actually meant either.
Nope.
I just took it as that was those people at the church, their way of referring to the Hime, whereas Hime was District 1's. The two different organizations had two different ways of referring to the same group of people.
But that wasn't shown in a way that was understandable. They just said it. They also didn't explain the crystal Hime. It was just there.
Yeah.
There's so many buzzwords in this show that mean nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't find there to be a point in bringing Miyu back at the end.
Nope.
Because she literally showed up, blew herself up again.
I think that the only reason they brought her back was, and this is the thing I don't understand, because she was like a robot, so she wasn't a Hime, but the only reason I can think that they brought her back was to, for some reason, have Alyssa back at the end. Which in and of itself still doesn't make sense, because she's not a Hime, so she didn't lose her precious one due to the Hime battle. She just got shot, but, okay, I guess she's back. That's the only reason I can think of that they brought Miyu back, because Alyssa was her special one, but she wasn't even a fucking Hime to begin with, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, plot-wise, she was an anti-Hime weapon, and at the end she destroyed the pillars, which allowed the spirits of all the Hime's precious ones to be released or something. I'm thinking that they got trapped inside the pillars.
I thought that was the Crystal Hime. She came back around and gave everybody that, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
That's also what I thought.
Yeah.
This show, man, this show.
Like, breaking the pillars allowed the Crystal Hime to break free, and I'm assuming that the special ones were trapped in the pillars as well, and she brought them back. That's how I interpreted it anyway. That I can't say if that's the official word on it. Haven't come across an official word on it.
I will say there were 2 reunions or like returns that I loved. I loved it when Akira came back, and I loved when Haruka came back. She's in this fucking goofy ass pose that's just like so her, and then she's like, "What?" And then she got hugged. I was like, "That's cute.
Yeah.
My baby's back." That was nice. A small glimpse of niceness in all my frustrations.
Yeah, this show is dated in a lot of storytelling too. Like, it predated the battle royale. Like, when you think of the term battle royale, I'm like, man, I've seen Fate. Like them battling to like battle for their souls. I'm like, well, I've seen this before. So when Nagi brought that up, I'm like, so we have 10 episodes of this shit. I already can guarantee that now is going to be the first that like fucking be on the outs with everyone. I mean, don't get me wrong though, like I like the whole premise of the children being tied to the precious one, and with Akane, like I honestly thought, like I kind of wanted Akane to be around and fight more than literally, oh, I summoned my fucking child. Oh, and then Miu just shows up and fucking axes the thing without even trying? Okay, I guess. That's really fucking bad writing / potential wasted.
That, and I still don't understand the point of Miu or Alyssa. I don't understand their point. Like, I understand that they're supposed to be a separate faction or whatever, but were they... I don't know. I don't get it. Also, Mai's whole, oh, you looked pretty once on a hill, so therefore I won't fight you mentality was the stupidest fucking reason to not off somebody.
And she did that multiple times through the anime, like when it was like now or like it was the nun, and she basically set herself and the guy on fire, and then she's like, "No, sister!" I'm like, "Bitch!"
Yeah, she really cared. She really fucking cared in that moment, despite the fact that 5 minutes earlier she was like, "I fucking hate you. You did this all."
Exactly.
Oh, let's not forget the fact that she fucking snaps at Mikoto 24/7 towards the back half. Cass, I think, pointed this out when we were watching, but she's like, wow, she's really fucking ungrateful for being saved several times over. And I'm like, yeah. That's really fucking true.
That was just to set up unnecessary drama between the two. I see what they were doing, but it was clumsy.
Yeah.
Much like a lot of the stories in that, like, there's moments where you can see good intent, but it's just delivered in the most stupid way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was villain of the week up until the Sears arc, and by the Sears arc I was like, okay, now we're getting into something more serious, although it's really fucking out of nowhere, and then it's Battle Royale for 16 onward, and I'm like, okay. Apparently that was the orphans, and all this bullshit was just the prelude to the main act, and I'm like,
Basically, as soon as Akira and Haruka were gone, I just had a really hard time watching the rest of it, because it brought all of the like characters and plot points that annoyed me like to the forefront, so it was like hard for me to trudge through past that. But yeah, because my fave aspects of the show were not there anymore.
I can get that.
Speaking of Haruka and the series arc, I just love the bit where she kicked the tank.
Yeah, that was great. She's just like, fuck this tank.
Fuck the tank. There's so many soldiers. Nah, she's got this.
No, she's
love
so
her.
good.
Yeah.
She's so good.
Yeah. She would like, she got her head bonked on like that soldier that one time. She ate a spicy curry bun, like, and withstood it so she could stay awake. Like, she's so great. I love her.
I also like her shtick where she would mispronounce words and have to be corrected.
Yeah.
That was so cute. Yeah, I like that, and like obviously Takumi and Akira are so precious.
Yeah. Again, good writing.
The bit with her that won me over the first time I was watching it was when she was disappearing And she was like, no, fuck this. I'm getting one last blow in, and headbutts her in the face.
Oh, Shizuru.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Shizuru in the face. I was like, okay, no,
Yeah.
that's cool. I like you.
But that made me
You've
just
won
like
the argument.
Shizuru even more, because she's like, oh, you thought you would get through to me with that? And I'm like, Jesus, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like Chizuru at all. Like, at all.
There was nothing redeeming about her.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a shame that, again, we talked about how Natsuki had some interesting, like, potential, and then they just dropped it, and then made her, you
Like,
know.
aesthetically, she's really fucking cool. Her summon is really
Yeah.
fucking cool. But her motivations is just like, I want to destroy District 1. I'm like, okay, cool. Can we explain what District 1 is? No. Oh, okay, then apparently she's just... And Cass pointed this out when we were watching yesterday. Wow, they really just like tying her up and making her a fucking damsel in distress, don't they? And I'm like, they really kind of do.
They also had a lot of out-of-character fan service for her, too. Like, when she was trying to hitchhike and
Yes.
shit like that. Like, I hated that. That was some of the most toxic, like, degrading of a female character that I've seen in a while. It's just, why?
Did we ever find out why she couldn't summon Jiran anymore?
Nope.
Because she lost the
'Cause
will to fight. Because
It
her
was
mother
because she
sold
found out her
her.
mom was going to sell her
Oh.
or something.
Okay.
Sell her
yeah.
to Sears. Every time they brought up Sears, by
Okay,
the way,
yeah.
I thought of the shopping store, Sears.
Me too. Me too.
Because she
Okay.
lost touch of, like, who it was that she loved the most at that point, and she felt betrayed by her mother's love, and therefore
Apparently, your love can change from person to person. Because for the longest time, I thought my love was tied to Takumi. But as soon as he got axed, I'm like, really, you fucking love these shitlords, really?
Yeah, and they mentioned that, like, point blank, thankfully. I actually thought it was really funny when she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Takumi. He's like, no big deal. I chose Akira. So, and I was like, nice. Nice, my dude.
I actually cared a lot more about Takumi than I thought I was going to either. I thought he was just going to be like the typical sick brother. And I was like, dude, this kid has some like really cool intellectual stuff to say.
He at the
Yeah.
tail end, he was like, is life worth living?
But even, like, just the way he approached that, like, very pragmatically, and looking at, like, how he affected, like, his sister's life and those around him, it was, like, yeah, really well developed. And, I mean, I like the fact that he was like, what do you want to do? Like, live your life. Like,
Yeah.
you know, just take charge of it. Like, wow, somebody fucking needed to tell Mai that.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like, for all intents and
Yeah.
purposes, I think, like, in, like, towards the tail end of the show, he's like, I feel like a burden on people, and I'm kind of, like, depressed. I have this heart disease, and I feel bad for my sister, but at the end of the day, I gotta, like, do my own shit, and
Yeah.
Akira is a good foil to that, where she's like, you idiot, you have to live for yourself, and I'm like, thank you, good writing, yes.
Oh, that moment was so good where
Hmm.
they had that talk. I loved it.
Yeah, where I love that Akira gave Takumi that will to live that he had not had up until that point. And that's some serious stuff to, like, take into consideration. And I really loved what the show did with those two characters. And I love that they ended up being the ones asking Mai, like, what is it that you want out of life? And at the end of the day, I still don't know what Mai wants.
She wants to sing, Cass.
Karaoke. So dumb.
The
wants to
fact
sing
that they didn't
karaoke.
resolve the fucking stupid, like, love square either is just a huge punch in the, like, if I had one in the dick. Like, why? Like, what is the point of not
Yeah.
resolving anything?
Because clearly the vice president, I almost said vice principal, vice president and Tate are so hot, but man, she's got a girl that really likes to eat her ramen.
None of it makes
I
sense.
also, this is just me, I didn't like the way that with Mikoto's relationship with Mai, they always had it teetering between, like, romantic sexual, but also, like, kind of
Sisterly.
maternal.
Yeah, maternal
Yeah,
sisterly.
or maternally. I was like, just go one way, please, or else it, like, makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. That was really weird.
But clearly Makoto loved her older brother which showed up in the last 4 episodes. I can't with the show sometimes, man. Like, oh, I love my brother so goddamn much. You don't understand what love is, What? You didn't even know he was alive until just the tail end of the show.
And it, like, never... It just, like, happened in context. Like, all of a sudden, she's with him, and then he's like, yeah, I'm your brother, and she's like, brother. And I was like, but y'all never, like, actually confirmed how any of this shit happened. Like, you hinted at it for, like 3 episodes, and then there was this huge gap, and then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, yeah, this has been a thing the whole time. Sure. I just... I can't with some of the storytelling. Like, it just drove me nuts.
I can't think of anything else, to be quite honest. I mean, it's all in all, the story's kind of a clusterfuck.
Yup.
Do you have anything to say, John?
Yeah, it's a bit of a clusterfuck. Yeah, no, I'm just letting you all rant and vent and get it all off.
Do you have anything to rant about there, dude? You were the one that watched it and rewatched it.
Yeah, like, is there anything that you have to add?
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're not, like, saying boo, like, poo-poo on you for, like, if you like this sort of thing.
I know you're not.
Yeah, like, there are shows that I like that definitely have problematic elements, so, I mean.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. No, just sitting here and agreeing pretty much with everything you were all saying. Like, yeah, shit was... There's so much about this series that I just wish they'd done better.
Yep.
Was better. Like, as I said, like, I wish they'd touched on the drives behind Natsuki and now earlier on, so that we could have those... We could have, like, even if they didn't meet up and realize it themselves, we could have, as an audience, put 2 and 2 together and so, oh no, these two are very similar. They're just different circumstances. If we could have actually had more hints about people's feelings for each other, for others, like earlier on, instead of it all being shoehorned in the fucking tail end, all of a sudden coming out. Like, yeah, so much of this shit, like, you could have done better.
Yeah.
Like, it's another one of those series that, like, I still really enjoy it, but I just can see so many ways that they could, like, remake it and improve on it by actually, like, having it all planned out properly from the start and start off with those hints. But I also am scared that if anyone did decide to do a remake of it, they'll go, oh yeah, it had fan service. Let's up the ante of the fan service.
Of course.
Huh.
But
that's one scary thought I have about it, though.
Let's be honest, though. I think Cass said this even when me and you were watching it with her. If the cast was cut in half, it would have been so much better.
Yeah.
It would have been paced so much better. Things would have had room to breathe. Consequences would have had gravitas to them. We would have had more motivations. Shit would have been drip-fed to us. If they would have stuck with, oh, just District 1 is the shadow organization in the background. Not Sears and the District 1 and fucking Nagi and the Hime pimple star on the moon. I think you would have had a fucking good show. Just focus on one thing, cut it in half, trim the fat, streamline it. You would have been so much better off. But unfortunately, this is a product of its time, and good on it for trying to fucking make it a multimedia franchise. I don't know how well it did for them, but you know what?
I think you said that perfectly. That's kind of my overall thoughts on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I hunger.
So I guess it's time to get out
Let's
of here.
Go.
Unless anybody else has something else to say, I want to go and be a bear and just eat a whole bunch of food.
Nope, I'm good.
Gow,
Gow,
gow.
gow, gow my food. Gow at my food.
I really can't think of anything else to say other than Akira and Takumi are best couple.
Yep.
I've currently got the scene from the end of Akira cutting up an apple for Takumi from the last episode as my icon, because I just remember I love it that the focus she has on this apple, like, how am I gonna cut it? Like this. Did I do it? Yeah, I did. Yay, got me. I love the look of the, like, happy look on her face after she'd cut the apple, right? But yeah, anywho.
All right.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah. So, to those that stuck around, I hope you all enjoyed our rantings and ravings about this series in this spoiler section. But that's all we have time for tonight. And so, I must bid you adieu.
Listening.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.
Go, go.